Hello, this is astrologer coach Sonja Francis, and today we're going to be talking about the last of three eclipses, which is happening this summer on August 11th at 5:58 a.m. East Coast time in the US, which is also New York time, or 10:58 a.m. London time. Now, this is the sun will align with the moon in 18.5 degrees of Leo. And this is, of course, a new moon cycle, but again, it's also an eclipse. So we are experiencing the last North Node solar eclipse in Leo that we will be experiencing until July 2036. So this is it's a long cycle. It's a 19-year cycle. So during a solar eclipse, the sunlight is blocked by the moon, and that sort of like brings about a reboot of some sort and like a consciousness upgrade. And that's what eclipses are, right? They're consciousness upgrades on our soul's journey. And so solar eclipses are extra powerful new moons that very often signal a time of major endings or new beginnings, especially for those of us who have planets, personal planets, in our own birth charts within 5 degrees of the eclipse. So this powerful new moon is also a supermoon, same as the last solar eclipse that we had in mid-July. And so this means that the moon is at its closest distance to the Earth, and so that increases sort of like emotionality and also creates a much larger consciousness shift. So that's the good news about it being a supermoon. But of course, it also signifies that there's a lot more internally going on for us. We might not quite know what to do with it until the downloads and the upgrades are completed, right? Which will take about a couple of weeks after the eclipse has been exact. So by the end of August, we should all be in a much better place. Now, eclipses take place approximately every 6 months. They are a time of clarifying and affirming our highest path, and it will bring a shift that will unfold over several months until the next eclipse becomes exact, which will be, in this case, in early January of 2019. So I will also talk about the best and most potent times to set intentions for this eclipse cycle towards the end of this video. So stay tuned for that, and also remember that setting intentions for solar eclipses is very different from a regular new moon process. So definitely stay tuned if you don't know what the difference is. Now, the sun and moon are always connected to one of the moon nodes with an eclipse. So in this case, it's a North Node eclipse, like I already mentioned. And North Node eclipses help us move towards a new exploration of an energy that promotes soul evolution. And we started this process already, with this particular combination of Leo Aquarius, with these particular polarities. We started this process already in 2017. You may want to kind of think back to, what began in 2017 in regards to these polarities. And maybe there's a process that is continuing already from last year. Now, solar eclipses end a 19-year cycle and begin another one. So the exact same eclipse in that same degree usually happens every 19 years. So the last North Node solar eclipse in 18.5 degrees of Leo took place August 11th, 1999. And so we're likely to experience something that resonates back to that time. Now, it's not going to be identical, of course, because we're 19 years older if we've already been alive during that time, or if you've already been old enough to remember what August 1999 was like. But if you are old enough, remember that it's not going to be identical. So think back to August 1999 and ask yourself, were there any major endings or beginnings for me at that time? And what was important to me back then? And if the call came now to take those priorities to the next level, what would that call sound like? and what is ready for an upgrade? So these are all great questions to ask yourself with this eclipse. And if you want to have access to the solar eclipse questions from the whole video, because I'm going to be asking a bunch of coaching questions that might be useful to either meditate on or journal with, or just sit with, whenever you can for the next 5 months. It's also something that, is just helpful in terms of the processing the energies as they are, because it helps us to kind of like understand what that could be for us when we're asking these questions. So if that's something that you'd like to do, you can get access to these questions via my weekly forecasts, and also to the members only full moon video as well, if you join my online community. So I'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end of the video. So if you want to hear about that, stay tuned until the end. And then also just in regards to the eclipses, we also want to remember that, if we're looking for more guidance on what this process might be for ourselves, in terms of these eclipses, what has maybe started last year for us, or what's happening with us right now with this eclipse, you may want to take a look at your natal chart, your own birth chart, if you have one. The house placement that the eclipse falls into will indicate which area of your life you're most ready to engage with for the next 5 months, from a very authentic heart place, and which you're ready to take to the next level of your evolution. So if that appeals, check out my video called How to Read My Birth Chart, which is available on my website. On the homepage, if you scroll down to where it says free class, you can click on that and then you can watch that video. Or you can also, if you want to go a little bit deeper and look in your chart more carefully how this eclipse is impacting you, you can also purchase the video of our most recent forecasting forum, where we look directly at our own birth charts to see how this eclipse, and also the last eclipse, the lunar eclipse, is affecting us for these next several months. So there's also a 20-minute excerpt that I made available on YouTube for this forum. So if you'd like to take a look at that, if you haven't seen it yet, feel free to take a look at that as well, so you get a sense of what it's all about, really, and if that's of interest to you. Again, for those of you who have natal planets within 5 degrees of the eclipse, and especially in the fixed signs, which is Leo, Aquarius, Taurus, and Scorpio, you will experience more traumatic changes with this eclipse than other people. So as best as you can, until eclipse season ends, which is August 26th, stay grounded and flexible as much as possible. Don't jump the gun, especially if you feel compelled to do something out of a place of anxiousness. Do your best to just simply observe that urge, to act, and rather than act on it, just allow yourself to kind of breathe and go, okay, is this really what needs to happen right now? And the only exception that I would say with this is that if something happens completely organically, where you're not pushing, where you're not, being anxious about it, but it just kind of unfolds and it just shows up, even if it's unexpectedly, right? But if it's organic, then that's okay. That's something that usually is actually very much in alignment with eclipses, that we experience unexpected things that come up. But if you're just a little ambivalent about a possible action that you want to take, just hold off until the end of eclipse season, August 26th. Now, this eclipse chart is really quite unique. We have a lot to talk about. So buckle up, or take breaks if you need to. Now, we have several retrograde planets. There's about 7 out of 9 planets that can possibly go retrograde, because some planets can't go retrograde, like the sun and the moon, for example, right? So all of the ones that can retrograde, 7 out of 9 are retrograde, which means that we have a chance to be a little bit more in tune with each of these planets' energies. And they are going to feel way more personal to us as they are resonating inside of us. So the planets that we're talking about here are Mercury, Mars, Saturn, Chiron, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And so these are all retrograde at the time of the eclipse, and they're all being accessed from the inside out right now. And so this turns our attention towards what no longer is in alignment with our innermost selves. And so in other words, we're really looking very much at an inside job here with this eclipse, you know. So you can ask yourself, for example, is the outside world in alignment with what I'm experiencing internally right now? And if the answer is no, then just ask yourself, where are the gaps? And where could I start to close some of these gaps? Now, we also have 4 planets in their own signs with this eclipse chart. So that means that they're operating at their maximum strength and they only answer to themselves. They're not really connected to any of the other planets in the chart unless they're connected via aspect. But just in terms of their own resonance, they're really, because they're in their own signs, they're vibrating very strongly just in that sign. So we're talking here about Neptune in Pisces, Saturn in Capricorn, Venus in Libra, and the Sun in Leo. So this means we're currently experiencing a heightened sense of universal love, which is connected to Neptune in Pisces. And we're looking to connect to self-compassion and self-acceptance with Neptune there. Now the other planet, Saturn in Capricorn, gives us a heightened sense of self-responsibility. And so we're looking to connect to our inner sense of authority here with Saturn. Then we have Venus in Libra, which gives us a heightened sense of justice. And we're looking to have collaborations and balance in our lives. And especially also within ourselves, we're looking for balance. And then lastly, we have a heightened sense of joy with the Sun in Leo. And we're also looking to connect to an authentic self-expression or an authentic expression of our spirit self. So as you can see, all of these planets have really very powerful expressions of themselves. And so with this extra powerful new moon in attention-loving, optimistic, courageous Leo, we have another 5 months to learn about what brings us joy and how we have been using our authentic, heart-based self-expression out there in the world. And again, this is not something new that we're doing here. We've been really exploring this already for the past year. But each eclipse kind of like brings us to a new level of our evolution within that exploration, right? So we can also expect here to learn more about what it means to connect to our inner child, about our ability to create, and how we can fully enjoy those moments of creation, because creating is not just about, like doing things. It's also about like really taking pleasure in what it is that we are creating, right? And if we think about early childhood experiences, we can really get a sense for that if you've had a childhood where that was possible for you. Now, the eclipse has us looking for very heartfelt experiences, and so it's important for us to really express ourselves, to learn about love and about how these things work together, to really gift us the power of creating from the heart and from a place of joy. So think about the keywords for this fire sign, right? Leo is all about proud, generous, hospitable, caring, warm, authoritative, active, open, fun-loving, right? These are all Leo expressions or Leo keywords, right? So how could you live into those words for the next 5 months? That's really what we're trying to kind of get to with this North Node eclipse, right? To really focus on that. How can we live into this energy, right? In a healthy way, in a way where we're not judging any of it, but we're really kind of like trying to see how does that feel to be in the highest, lightest vibration of Leo, right? Now, this is also going to be a great time to either begin new projects connected to creative self-expression, fun, taking risks, being bold and colorful, anything connected to the enjoyment of life, projects that involve children or our inner child. Or it can also be a great time to continue anything that we've started last year with the last eclipse in Leo around this time, right? So related to anything that I just mentioned, right? So if there's anything that's already in the cooking for you, continue some of these projects. And if not, maybe there is something new in regards to these projects that you might want to look into for yourself. Now, Leo is ruled by the sun, like I mentioned a little bit earlier already. And so the sun is the symbol of consciousness, and it's our unique light that we come to shine forth in this lifetime. So each one of us has our own version of that. And so this is what we're born to explore and to express. So what you can ask yourself here is, where could I shine my unique light more brightly? And what brings me joy? And not just in general, but in this very moment, for example, what brings me joy right now? So, of course, answering these questions is also going to be a little bit easier if you know where your sun sign is in your own birth chart, because it's not just about the Leo energy. It's also about where does that connect with our own sun energy, because each one of us has the sun in a different sign and a different house. So what sign is your sun in? What house is your sun in? So again, if you're not clear on where your sun sign might be, feel free to check out that 30-minute class, How to Read Your Birth Chart, which is available on my website on the homepage at astrologercoach.com. Now, Leo also represents our creativity, right? So there are so many ways that we can be creative and self-expressed out there in the world, because there are so many ways that we can connect to that. There's so many people out there, so many selves, so many different expressions, right? We're all different in the way we create. So, but we're all creators in our own way, in our own right. So each one of us creates, of course, with every thought, with every word, with every action that we take, and so we have to remember that the creative process is connected to what we think first, and then also, of course, the type of feelings that we're giving to those thoughts, or that are arising with those thoughts. And then also, what we express about that, what we say about that, or what we write about that. And then also the actions that we take because of the feelings and the thoughts that we're having, right? Because actions are very often very strongly connected to a feeling base, what's internally connected to our thoughts and feelings, right? So a highly effective creativity, really requires innocence. It requires curiosity. It requires courage and playfulness. That's really how we can be most effective in our creativity. And to live that out, we must tap into our unique spark inside of us in a very joyful way. So we really have to get in touch with our heart energy, with our heart chakra. And we also need to allow ourselves the freedom to make mistakes. And this, of course, can be challenging sometimes, depending on how we were raised. And also, quite frankly, even if we were raised with very loving parents, just in general, society sometimes, can be very hard on us when it comes to making mistakes, right? There can be ridicule, there can be, rejection that we can experience when we make mistakes. So, but one thing we have to remember is that creativity really thrives on love and permission, and it is very much stifled by judgment and fear. So that is really important to remember, so that we can be most effective in our creations, in our creativity. Now, let's take a look at some of the aspects of this eclipse chart. The eclipse conjuncts Mercury in Leo, which is retrograde right now. It quincunxes Pluto in Capricorn, and it squares Jupiter in Scorpio. So what does all of that mean? So let's get started with Mercury, right? So Mercury is still retrograde in Leo until August 19th. And this is, again, with the retrograde planets, it's an internal process. So one that really provides a chance to honor and reorganize our thoughts. And so we're working from the inside out with our thinking. We always have to kind of like get more in touch internally, intuitively, and sort of like maybe double check, rethink, retool, release what no longer works for us, and especially in relationship to the Leo energy, right? So take the time to investigate your own thought processes around authentic and heartfelt self-expression and joy, right? What is joy? How does that show up in my thought processes? So ask yourself here, what is going unsaid in my life? Where do I shy away from expressing something? And what might be the payoff for not saying it? And where do I hold back out of fear or concerns about ridicule or rejection? And what if I got really clear about the impact that that has on me? And so these are really, really powerful questions. So I just want to invite you to sit with these questions, or journal on them or meditate on them. And, again, with all these questions that I pose in my videos, I just want to invite you to use the ones that resonate the most with you and just discard the rest. Don't worry about answering all of them. Of course, there's too many of them to answer all of them, quite frankly, right? But the ones that really capture you and the ones that really kind of catch your heart in a way, just really see if you can sit with those questions. And also remember that this is a process that it's not about answering the questions per se. It's about allowing the answers to come to you when it comes to posing these questions. So it's really a process of opening up to the question and allowing the question to be a question, right? Without needing to necessarily have an answer right away. Now, some of the other things you can ask here too is, what if I could step into my courage with an open heart and talk about myself and what I perceive in an authentic, playful way? And this sounds so simple, and it sounds like something that we all should be able to do, right? But when it comes down to it, it's not always that easy to do. Having the courage to really be completely honest and authentic from the heart and in a playful way, that's not always available to everybody, right? And it's, if we're really being honest with ourselves, it may be available some of the time, but it's certainly not available all of the time. So really kind of like contemplating what might be possible, if I dared to speak from, for, and with love in those moments, when it's not quite so easy or when it's not quite available to me. What might be possible? And what might it be worth to risk rejection just sometimes, right? So, because a lot of the time, of course, when we're not saying something that we want to be saying, it's a lot of the time because we don't want to be rejected, or we fear sort of like a backlash or a consequence for the things that we're going to be saying. And then, of course, some of the things that we want to say are also maybe not necessarily coming from an open heart. Some of them might be things that come from fear or from wanting to reject first somebody else before we get rejected, right? So we want to kind of take a look at that as well. So what might be possible if I dared to speak from, for, and with love? And what might be worth the risk of rejection just sometimes? So until August 19th, when Mercury turns direct, we are being invited to think back to our childhood and question what messages we received back then about authentic self-expression and joyful sharing and creating. Because of course, everyone has experienced, that in different ways growing up, and we all have received different messages, right? So ask yourself, was I allowed to have an opinion back then when I was a kid? And was it safe to be playful and self-expressed? And was I able to play and create with others? Was I acknowledged for my creations? And was I loved unconditionally? Now, obviously, these are questions that for some of us, they're going to be maybe even a little bit painful to answer, and I don't want you to necessarily go into a place of victimhood with answering these questions, but I just want you to sort of notice, just notice for yourself. What was that like for you as a kid? Because very often, we tend to hold on to certain conditionings that we've enjoyed or endured as children, or that we've just soaked up as children. So the Mercury retrograde really asks us to think about, what these things were for us, and to just check in with ourselves intuitively and to see, like, is this really something that's worth holding on to, or is it something that I now can give myself permission to, either let go or move with it in a different way, right? So really ask yourselves, what old thought forms am I ready to release to be in closer alignment with my heart and with my joy, right? Now, Mercury's prolonged journey through Leo because of the retrograde phase will, of course, trigger the eclipse point several times. So the first time it actually triggered the eclipse point was already in July 14th. And then it will trigger the eclipse point 2 more times on August 6th and August 29th. And so really pay attention to what comes up for you at that time. And those messages are important really to kind of pay attention to for the coming 5 months as this eclipse kind of unfolds and where we're learning how to connect with these energies. And I also going to be talking in more detail about these points, about August 6th and August 29th in my weekly forecast as well. So if you're already a member, feel free to access them from your membership portal by going to my content tab in your members account once you're signed in. And if you're not a member yet, feel free to take advantage of all the amazing discounts that are still available while I'm upgrading some of the membership functions. Right now, there's like a 40% discount that you're getting. So if this is really something for you, then definitely, consider that right now. But let's get back to some of the other aspects of this eclipse chart, right? There's because so many other aspects here. So the eclipse is really making a quincunx to Pluto. That's very powerful and that's very important. And we want to talk about that because that indicates that we still need to make some inner adjustments around our personal and collective empowerment process. Do we feel empowered? Of course, and Pluto is also retrograde right now. So it's an inner process, it's an inner journey. So really ask yourself here, where am I coming from survival rather than love and joy? And where have my passions tipped into obsessions, right? Because passion is when we're really like jazzed up about something and it feels good. But when we're getting obsessed about something, we're sort of like, it no longer feels good. That component falls away because we're not really taking care of ourselves very well anymore. When we're obsessed, we're just kind of like, we just keep going and we're on a hamster wheel, right? We're kind of on a hamster wheel and we're not really fully connected to our heart anymore. We're kind of like go, 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 right? So where have my passions tipped into obsessions, right? And you know if they have, right? Now, another question you can ask yourself here too is, might my focus on accomplishing things actually be taking away from my enjoyment for life? That's a really important one too, of course, and that's something that can happen when we get a little bit too focused and a little bit too obsessed about certain things. And what attitudes are asking to be adjusted or eliminated? Because we do have certain attitudes about life, or we do have certain attitudes about what it is that we want to achieve or accomplish right now. So what is it that might need your adjustment, or what might need to be eliminated here? Now, Pluto retrograde really compels us to face our shadows and reclaim our power from the inside out. And so we're currently experiencing this, of course, on a collective level and on an individual level. And so we have to remember that we're really changing and growing in ways that we can't comprehend right now. It's very, it's sort of like a speeding up process that's currently going on in that regard. And so, of course, this feels uncomfortable, at certain times, maybe not all the time, but there's certain moments where that can feel really uncomfortable. And so we're really invited to simplify. We're invited to be patient and focus on our inner journey towards empowerment just for right now, and really stay as open and observant as we can around this. And I know it's not going to be always easy to do that, but as best as you can. You don't have to do this perfectly, but just as best as you can. And ask yourself, what am I committed to long term? What do I need from myself to be passionately engaged with those commitments? And I really mean passionately, not obsessively, right? And what do I need from others? What do I need from the outside world or from other people in order for me to feel passionately engaged with my commitments? And what motivates me? What really truly motivates me? And this is a really important question because most of us don't even know what motivates us consciously. Very often it's a very unconscious thing what our motivations are. But if we really observe and pay attention to what's going on in our lives, we can see the motivations there quite clearly. And motivations are connected to emotional resources. Motivations are about, is it coming from a place of love? Is it coming from a place of fear? Very often that's, the basis of our motivations. And then what's holding me back? Once we know what the motivations are, check and see what's holding me back. And then, of course, if the motivation is fear, you really want to ask yourself, what am I afraid of happening? And could I let go of any weird sense of wanting or at least expecting that from happening? Because very often when we're afraid of something, there's a part of us that's sort of like emotionally so focused on that we're in a weird way, kind of creating that in some way, and that there is a part of us that's sort of like expecting that to come about. So could I decide that no matter what my past experience is, in this now moment, I am okay. And maybe that I'm going to be okay no matter what. So, last aspect that I want to talk about, and feel free to take breaks here, right? This eclipse also makes a square to Jupiter, which indicates that we still have some beliefs in place that we need to investigate. So we can really turn the corner and be fully engaged with others and ourselves in an authentic, empowered way, right? So ask yourself, what do I currently believe about life that is bringing about fears, past traumas, or disempowering circumstances? And what if all of these are showing up simply to be released and transformed? And this is a very important question because so often when we experience stuff coming up that feels disempowering or that feels fearful or that feels connected to past traumas, we tend to kind of tense up and get worried and get even more like cornered and stuck because we're like, oh no, this is coming back or this is showing up, and oh no, why is this showing up, right? But what if it is showing up so that we can release it and transform it? And very often we don't even consider that question, right? But this is a good question to consider. And how might a brave, open heart and mind contribute to setting these beliefs free? And just remember that beliefs are just reoccurring thoughts that we have. And reoccurring thoughts that we've made into the truth. that we've said at some point, we've had this thought over and over again, and at some point we said, oh, it must be true because this keeps happening. This thought keeps coming back over and over again, so this must be true. So that's all a belief is, really. It's not the truth. It's just something that we think is true because we've thought it so many times. So check and see, in what ways am I feeling out of control right now? And then notice if there's a desire to be in control because you're feeling out of control in some ways, in some area of your life. It may not be everywhere, right? It may not be all of what you're experiencing, obviously. But if there's something in your life, an area or an experience or a relationship or anywhere where you just feel this sense of like, I feel a little out of control here. And then, of course, wanting to kind of fix that or control that or have it be a particular way, right? Ask yourself, could I let go just for this now moment of wanting control, of wanting to control this? And notice the word wanting versus having control, right? So if we let go of wanting something, then we're no longer expressing a sense of lack. Because whenever we're expressing something that we want, we're saying to the universe, I'm not having this, therefore I want it. So that is sort of expressing a sense of lack, right? Which in turn will give us the experience of lack if we're wanting it, right? So if we're letting go of the wanting, that will give us the experience of having it rather than wanting it, right? So again, see if you can ask yourself, could I let go just for this now moment of wanting control? Not having it, just the wanting of it. Very powerful question. I invite you to really play with that and see what that does in your life if you continue using that question. Now, this eclipse chart also has a T-square involving Saturn in Capricorn as the focus point and Venus in Libra opposing Chiron in Aries. So this puts a lot of stress on Saturn because Saturn is the focus point here with this T-square. And Saturn also is currently retrograde. So this indicates that we have a strong sense of inner commitment and obligation right now. We tend to be very hard on ourselves, and we may be doing a lot of shoulding on ourselves right now. So what you want to ask yourself here is, what if I ran my shoulds through a computer that could only answer heck yes or no way? So let me say that again. And actually, let me give you an example here, because I think that question might be a little bit confusing otherwise. So for example, right, when we're shoulding on ourselves, we're doing something like, I should be doing the cat box right now. I should be doing this task right now. That's essential right now for me to do. I need to do this. Or I have to do the cat box right now. Or I have to do this task, right? So what if we kind of like switch that to, I am choosing to do the cat box right now, or I'm choosing to do this task right now, or I'm not choosing to do this right now, I'm choosing to do this later, right? So again, it's like, yes, I'm choosing it, or no, I'm not choosing it right now, I'm choosing this later. So when we choose something powerfully, when we make a choice and say, this is what I am choosing, that feels really empowering. And when we should on ourselves, we tend to feel disempowered. And therefore, because we feel disempowered, we tend to rebel against ourselves. And so, of course, when we rebel against ourselves and then we're sort of like not doing something that we said we're going to be doing, or we committed to doing, we also tend to feel guilty about that too. So this sort of creates a spiral, right? Like a downward spiral, energetically speaking. And so the result of that is a heavy heart and a sense of disempowerment. right? And so, of course, that doesn't feel good. So what if I ran my shoulds through a computer that could only answer heck yes or no way? And really choosing powerfully, yes, I am choosing this now. No, no way, I'm not choosing that right now. This has to be something that I choose later, okay? Or not at all, if it's not something that you don't want to choose. Now, with the T-square always, we want to look at the empty leg of the T-square. So in this case, the empty leg of the T-square lands in Cancer. And so we're really invited to focus our energies on self-care, because Saturn is in Capricorn. The opposite of that is Cancer, which is all about self-care. So ask yourself, what would self-responsible self-care look like within my relationships or elsewhere in my life, for that matter, right? And how might nurturing myself support true acceptance and kindness towards myself, towards others, towards the world at large? Very important. And so we also talked about this in more detail in relationship to our own birth charts in my last forecasting forum, where we talked about the eclipses. So feel free to check that out if you haven't seen that yet. And also what I would like to mention here too is that for this month only, you can actually get a free copy of that entire eclipse webinar if you sign up for either the next 2 forecasting forums, which will be late August and September, in advance. But you can also get this webinar for free if you become a star or superstar member by the end of the month. And if you, by the way, if you're already a star or superstar member, then you already have this webinar. So just check your emails for when I sent this out, right? And then also, if you are already a universal member on my site, you can simply upgrade to a star or superstar membership via your subscription tab in your members account. And if you do that by August 28th, then you also get this Eclipse webinar for free. So these are all the options that are available. If that's of interest to you, feel free to do that. If not, feel free to ignore. And then let me just sum up for this solar eclipse what it's all about. So it invites us to reconnect to what really lights us up, to what we love, and to how we want to express that in the world. And even if there might be challenges along the way, so even if there's still stuff that we have to work through, you know, in regards to maybe some deeper issues, traumas, disempowerments that we still have to work through, it wants us to have the courage to choose a life of joy, supported by a sense of self-responsibility and self-care. And this is important. Self-care is really important here, right? So for the next 5 months, I invite you to pause occasionally and ask yourself these questions. What are my special talents? If I had a superpower, what might that be? And what kind of world do I want to be a part of? What might my talents help bring into being? And so the eclipse also invites us to tap into our day-to-day mind from a place of joy and by communicating authentically from the heart. So you can ask yourself, what might it feel like to create? Not for the sake of achieving or gain, but from love, joy, and fun. And that's that Mercury retrograde in Leo. So please remember that eclipses catalyze a major reset of our reality. So it's really making it a very powerful time to focus on what we might want to manifest. And so as best as you can, you know, allow yourself to be in a quiet, receptive state on the day of the eclipse, and maybe even the day before and the day after, and watch out for important insights that come through. You know, anything that you're feeling, especially something from the heart that brings joy or that's connected in some way to that Leo energy. So one of the things that you can also consider maybe doing, you know, the days immediately before and after this eclipse is meditate or take walks in nature, engage in creative or spiritual endeavors, anything that supports you going within and tapping into your inner divinity and your inner joy. So in the following weeks, there will be planets transiting the eclipse degree, and they will offer additional downloads and activations. And I will be mentioning those transits in my weekly forecasts in more detail. So feel free to either join the online community to get access to those weekly forecasts, or if you're already a member, read those weekly forecasts on your membership portal. But you can also, read part of these, some excerpts of these weekly forecasts on my Facebook fan page and via Twitter as well. So feel free to join there. They're for free on my Facebook fan page, on my Twitter page. So, and lastly, what I want to say is, as I've mentioned already in previous videos, eclipses are Uranian in nature, and therefore they are times of uncertainty. So anything could really happen between now and August 26th. So just stay open, allow for the new templates to download, stay centered, and just do your best to stay grounded from within, and try, using conscious breathing. Flexibility is very powerful, of course, and best of all, see if you can move to the observer position when it comes to the emotional and mental body, because there might be stuff, floating up, and you might feel a little bit overwhelmed by that. But if you go into the observer position, that can really give you a sense of, like spaciousness, and give you a sense of like, okay, this is just something that I'm currently experiencing, but it's not it's not a place that I have to really get attached to, and I don't have to live from that place. It's temporary. And so downloads will be completed within the next 2 weeks. So just remember that. And if you do have an ascendant or personal planets in 13 to 24 degrees of Leo, Aquarius, Taurus, or Scorpio, then this eclipse, of course, is going to be more powerful for you than for the rest of us. But for all of us, of course, wherever the eclipse lands in our birth chart, that area of life will be definitely affected as well. So again, feel free to either watch How to Read Your Birth Chart video, or get my forecasting forum that we just had on my website at astrologercoach.com. On the homepage is the free video, and then the forecasting forum that you can purchase is available on my webinar page, which you can access via the services tab. Okay, and then How to Read Your Birth Chart video is also a really great one to watch before you join our monthly forecasting forum. If that's something you've thought about, definitely watch that video first. And before we talk about setting intentions, I very, very briefly just want to take the time to mention a little bit about my memberships and my online community. Feel free to, skip this part if you're not interested at all in this. But if you've been thinking about joining my online community, I would highly recommend getting in now before these 40% discounts end. If you are the kind of person who would like to have monthly support system, who wants to learn more about yourself and about astrology, check out the Superstar membership. It's the best value and has the most benefits for the relatively small fee you're spending each month. And you get a free reading every year. You get free coaching sessions every month. You get my Soul-Based Astrology Basics course for free, which includes 6 90-minute video presentations about the whole basics of astrology, so you really know how to read your own birth chart at that point once you've watched that course. You get multiple one-on-one tutoring sessions for free with every astrology course that you purchase after the basics course. And lastly, you get a ton of discounts on additional readings, courses, or retreats that are offered online, as well as everything that is already included in the other 2 memberships, the Universal and the Star membership, right? So as you can see, the list goes on and on and on. It's really, really tremendous value. So I really just want to encourage you to look into that if that's for you. If that's for you, go for it. Take advantage of these highly discounted prices right now. They're over 40% off right now. And also, they're going to be locked in for life. So even if my fees will go up from the discounts, if you join now, that will be locked in for life for you, as long as you stay an active member. All right, so much about my online community. Now, let's talk about the solar eclipse intentions. The solar eclipse is also the best time to set some really, really powerful intentions for this whole eclipse cycle. And remember that this eclipse cycle runs for 5 months until January 2019. So solar eclipse intentions are best done 48 hours after the eclipse becomes exact. And the reason for that is that we're downloading new templates at the time of the eclipse. And it's a very powerful, energetic download. So we're not really ready to set intentions right at the time of the eclipse. So you want to wait 48 hours, and you definitely don't want to be setting intentions during a moon void, of course. That's the same as with the new moon intentions, right? So when is the best time? August 13th from 5:58 a.m. until August 15th at 5:58 a.m. is the best and most potent time to set intentions, eclipse intentions, and that's Eastern Daylight Savings Time in the US, which is also New York time zone. There is one brief exception, which is a 20-minute window on August 14th between 12:37 a.m. and 12:57 a.m. And again, that's New York time, East Coast time in the US. So the reason why this is an exception is because the moon will be void, of course, during those 20 minutes. So you do not want to be setting intentions during that time. But other than that, other than those 20 minutes, August 13, 5:58 a.m. until August 15, 5:58 a.m., that's your window, okay? Now, if you live in a different time zone other than the U.S. Eastern Coast time zone, feel free to join my Facebook fan page or my Twitter page, because I will be posting several reminders starting on August 13th in the morning until the 15th early in the morning to let you know when is the most potent time to set your intentions. And when you see these reminders pop up, just boom, sit down and just write your intentions in that moment. And make them powerful, right? Make these intentions really powerful because they are for the next, they're lasting for the next 5 months. This is like a manifestation process that is for you to create for the next 5 months. And if possible, align them with the Leo energy, okay? Now, for more information about setting solar eclipse intentions, you can either go to my Facebook fan page and check out the notes sections there from a computer. Unfortunately, that can't be accessed from an iPhone or Android phone. Or you can also go to my website at astrologercoach.com and just go to the blog page and then look for astrology articles on the right side of the blog page, and then click on that link where it says astrology articles, and that should, if you scroll down, you should be able to see at some point an article that talks about new moon intention settings, and that will also talk about solar eclipse intention settings. All right, now to sign up for my free monthly newsletter, feel free to do that on my homepage at the very top, or you can also email us at info@astrologercoach.com and just write newsletter in the subject line. The newsletter includes special offers, it includes my new moon videos, it includes any announcements that I have about courses or forums or anything else that I'm doing. So if that's of interest to you, feel free to sign up for that. And if you have any general questions about eclipses or about this solar eclipse, feel free to reach out to me via email, Sonja@astrologercoach.com. If it's a personal question that you have that requires of me pulling up a birth chart, I will ask you to book a reading with me on my website, or you can also join the next forecasting forum and ask me questions there. Okay, so all of that is available. Whew, we are done. So hopefully you were able to watch the whole video. And I will be back within the next couple of weeks with the next full moon video for our members. So if you're a member, then tune in about 2 weeks from now. And if you're not a member yet, then either feel free to join or join us again for the next new moon video, which will come in a month from now. Okay? All right. Have a good one. This is Astrologer Coach Sonja Francis. Goodbye.